Good afternoon and welcome to the Altadena Community Meeting. Today we have a few short presentations, then we will answer questions that have been pre-submitted by community members. You can also submit questions in real time using the chat or comment functions on your screen. Supervisor Barger, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to make this short because I know there's a lot of questions, but I just have to say I was up in Altadena today and I saw the EPA and the Army Corps hard at work. And I want to thank both the Army Corps and the EPA for the work that they're doing to help us begin to put Altadena back together. There are questions that are being asked, and I'm going to wait. I know there's questions regarding the EPA and the location of the sorting site, and I'm going to touch on that. But I also want to thank our county team that has been hard at work. I also saw the debris basin, Mark Pastrella, and I know we're cleaning it out. The rains definitely brought a lot of debris down into the basin, and so there's no question that we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm confident working together we can get it done. So with that, let's begin the questions.
Thank you. And our first presenter today is Dr. Ferrer, the Director of LA County's Department of Public Health. Dr. Ferrer, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. And thank you so much, Supervisor Barger, for your leadership and commitment during the wildfire response. Your efforts, along with those of our county, state, and federal partners, have been instrumental in protecting and supporting our residents and our businesses. To build on these efforts, we have launched a comprehensive post-fire assessment to better understand the environmental impacts of the fires. This work will help ensure that residents have the information and resources that they need as the recovery moves forward. I want to just take a minute to outline what the assessment includes and how our partners are contributing to this critical effort. This assessment focuses on testing air, soil, and water to make sure that residents will have the information they need during the recovery and rebuilding process. The post-fire assessment is a coordinated effort, and it involves multiple departments, government agencies, and research institutions to bring together expertise in environmental science, health, toxicology, and air toxics to assess potential health risks and guide recovery efforts. The assessment plan includes 3 pieces. There's air quality monitoring, which will help detect harmful pollutants, including fine particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, and other byproducts that can affect respiratory health. There's soil sampling to assess the potential of contamination from heavy metals, dioxins, and other toxin residues that may have settled from wildfire ash and debris. And then there's water quality analysis to ascertain the impact of the fire-related contaminants on drinking water and natural waterways. These assessments will help assess the extent of environmental exposure. They'll identify potentials for health risks, and they will then help us guide mitigation strategies so that we can offer additional protections in communities as they're recovering and rebuilding. Findings from the partners that are collaborating on the assessment plan will be shared publicly and updated regularly so that there will be transparency and residents will have the information they're requesting. This work will include collecting and analyzing samples in the areas most impacted by the fires. To provide you with more details about this work and answer questions, we are hosting a virtual town hall tomorrow at 6 p.m. This town hall is streamed on public health social media channels at LA Public Health and then on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to join us if you have questions. And finally, I do want to note that we issued a health advisory for those that reside within 250 yards of burned structures or parcels in the Palisades and Eaton burn areas. The advisory notes that residents in these areas face an increased risk of exposure to hazardous substances from ash, soot, and fire debris before the completion of phase 1, that's the hazardous materials removal, and phase 2, which is the fire debris removal. The advisory was issued because it's known that exposure to these materials may lead to physical health symptoms and may pose long-term health impacts. As a reminder, fire debris can contain asbestos, heavy metals like lead, hazardous chemicals from household products like paint, and fine particulate matter that's created by the fire. We want to highlight that this advisory reflects our current understanding of potential risks, and it does differ from previous recommendations that were issued in 2019 that related just to the placement of temporary housing. As we continue this work, we are committed to providing you with the information you're looking for, and we encourage everyone to stay informed. You can visit us at publichealth.lacounty.gov on our wildfire page. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ferrer. Next, we'll hear from the Director of Public Works, Mark Pastrella.
Good evening. I don't have much of a presentation to say that we're excited about the progress we're making with respect to ROEs. We have accelerated the process and sending many more ROEs off to the Corps of Engineers as they receive those. They are beginning the process in your neighborhoods to do cleanups. As Supervisor mentioned, the post storm event that occurred, we are working away at restoring your community's flood control system all over the community. So please be patient with us as we are hauling a lot of material out of the very large dam in the neighborhoods there in Sierra Madre. We're also cleaning out a number of debris basins, 19 in total, and restoring the sandbag system and diversion system as we are still in storm season and expect there may be more rain. As many of you know, our rainy season officially or typically ends in April, around April 15th. So, just being diligent and being aware. The system did work very well, and I appreciate all of you that, followed our instructions and warnings. And we had no lives lost and no major property damage to those events. I think I'll leave it there and take on some questions as they come.
Thank you, Director Pastrella. Our next presenter is Colonel Eric Swenson with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Colonel Swenson.
Hey, thank you, and good afternoon, Altadena. Boy, what a great day out in Altadena today, and in Pasadena. Spent a couple hours out there hanging out with survivors and just really building rapport and bonding with them. Also inspiring them with the fact that we're going to be out in your community in force. We already are out there. We're going to just continue to be out there in force. So I got a couple things I want to talk about today, and then I'm really looking forward to questions. So first, I just want to start by saying, the Corps is dedicated to this mission. We brought another colonel like myself in who's going to focus solely on Altadena while I'm able to cover down on both fire impacted areas. So you're still going to see a lot of me. I'm just going to bring another person in. His name is Sonny Avishal. He's on the call with me now. I just wanted everyone, you see another colonel walking around in uniform, a little better looking than I am. That's him. Second thing, I just want to tell you, I really want to just talk a little bit about our methods and our processes. So I've talked about this at other public meetings, but we do this debris removal in what we call the wet method. And you heard the Dr. Ferrer talk about the things that the public health community is doing. Well, we are very concerned about our employees' health, and we want to make sure that they are protected. And by extension, we want to make sure the community is protected. So we're going to use water on all of our sites, as we have been, to keep the dust down. I was out there, I don't see any dust blowing around. So we're doing a great job of keeping that wet. And when we scoop it, it stays in the truck. The truck is lined with plastic liner, which is folded over top, and the tarp comes down over top to hold it all in place. So it goes from an uncontrolled location, uncontrolled environment, to a controlled environment in a vehicle, in a truck, designated to haul that, and it goes all the way to a permitted landfill that has been permitted to accept fire ash and debris. And so that process is really, really safe. Also, before we get to the debris removal, we also talk about, we also go and we test for asbestos. I know asbestos is a building material that was used here over the past. We test for it multiple locations, and when we find it, we use a special company that remediates the asbestos. That we do that first, then we go on and do debris removal, again, using the wet method. And this is all for the protection of our crews, but really for the protection and the public health benefits of the community. And then real briefly, I just want to talk about haul routes. There's been some discussion about haul routes and how we're going to get this fire ash and debris out of your community and into that controlled location. And so Depending on where the parcel is, depends on where we would like to take, or we plan on taking, this fire ash and debris. We have worked closely with both Cal Recycle and, even closer to home, Director Pastrella and the county team, to identify landfills that are permitted and able to receive this fire ash and debris. And also recyclables, because we also take clean concrete that we crush. We have to find a home for that. We also take recyclable metals and titled properties such as boat trailers and I guess boats, and also vehicles. So some of the landfills that we're using, Simi Valley, we're using some SA recycling sites, Azusa landfill, El Sobrante landfill, in particular for the work that's going on in Eaton. And that map you see in front of you is a laydown of some of the routes we take. It is absolutely our goal to get this fire ash and debris and these recyclable products off of local roads onto county roads, off of county roads onto state roads, off of state roads onto federal highways as quickly as we safely can. And that's because the bigger the road, like the bigger it's geared to take the type of vehicles we're driving on it. And so we want to get those big trucks out of your neighborhood and get it onto a safe place, a safe road, and ultimately into that controlled environment at a variety of these landfills. Now this shows a couple. Obviously, we're constantly looking for the landfills that have capacity, that are permitted and safe for all of this material, and we want to get it there as quickly and safely as possible. So we want to get it in and then get that truck back, because we know that you want to rebuild in your community, and you want us to be gone. So in order to do that, we got to get our trucks there, drop off the material, and get them back for the next load, so that we can get your community cleaned up, and we can return it to you in a condition that is more suitable for you to rebuild your lives and livelihoods. And so I know there's been some questions on this, and I'm happy to take Q&A specifically about haul routes, about landfills, or anything else that the Army Corps is doing here as we partner with the county and we partner with the state to deliver for you. Over.
Thank you, Colonel Swenson. We will now transition to the question and answer portion of our evening. The following questions were submitted ahead of tonight's community meeting, and we will answer as many of them as we can in the allotted time. You can also submit questions in real time using the chat or comment functions on your screen. As a reminder, you can find answers to frequently asked questions on recovery.lacounty.gov/Altadena. Colonel Swenson, the first question is for you. What is going to be the order and process for homes or neighborhoods for phase 2 debris removal? Could the Army Corps prioritize neighborhoods that have structures still standing so those people can return home?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get this one a lot. And the answer is really, we're going to try to work across both fire impacted areas. And we're doing that for a couple of reasons. We want to spread our teams out so we don't clog the intersections and cause traffic congestion with our own vehicles, let alone negatively impact the community. And in terms of the priority, we absolutely want to wait damaged parcels that are near ecologically sensitive locations. So you think about a parcel that is right next to a stream, a river, or a coastline. Those are areas we want to prioritize. We also want to prioritize locations that are next to standing and occupied buildings, schools, senior centers, places that we want to provide those residents who have returned, or those community members who have returned to that location to live. We want to provide them as much buffer as we can for peace of mind, and then while we do the rest of the work on the interior.
Thank you. And another question for you, Colonel. How can we verify that our ROE was received? What if it's not showing up on the opt-in map? I believe this question might be better suited for Public Works. Director Pastrella, if you'd like to answer. And how are property owners notified prior to phase 2 debris removal on their property? What's the deadline to submit the ROE?
Okay, thank you. Yes, the process of submittal of an ROE includes an acknowledgement back to a contact email that you gave us during the application process. If you have not received an email back saying that we received the ROE, that's a glitch, or we may not have gotten the email correctly. So I would advise to confirm that we've received it to call the following number: 844-347-3332. 844-347-3332. And a person there, operator, can confirm whether or not we've received your ROE. We're currently working on the process to confirm that we've certified your ROE, and then be able to give you a notice about that as well. And I'll have to check with staff where we are. I know we had a goal of this week having that part of our program, so that you can receive also a notice when we've actually turned your ROE over to the Corps. And then the deadline for submittal of an ROE is March 31st, 2025. So it's just around the corner. We want to encourage everyone to get their ROE in law before that deadline.
Thank you, Director Pastrella. Our next question is, how were the sites selected for the storage of phase 1 debris removal? What are the community health risks from this, and will nearby homes be at risk? Will the EPA perform soil sampling after this is completed to ensure that there was no long-term contamination? I'll open the floor to whoever would like to answer that.
Well, I'll answer the first part about the choice. As you know, the first site was the Lario staging area out in Azusa, but they found that the volume of materials that they were bringing in required additional staging capacity. So Farnsworth, and they were looking for space that would accommodate the size and scope of what they needed. So Farnsworth and Altadena were both selected. There is no perfect site, and I understand that, but understand this, that this, especially Altadena golf course, it's going to be for no more than 60 days because Army Corps is going to be using Altadena golf course for staging for debris removal. But I'm going to let the EPA talk about their process, because it is a very careful process. Soil testing is being done prior and post when they leave. So I don't know who from the EPA is on here that can explain the process and how you all go about sealing the materials and then putting them in the canisters.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor Barger. This is Harry Allen from EPA. And thank you for this question. Yes, we had to select our staging areas in both fire footprints very quickly so we could get phase 1 going and make properties available for phase 2. And I'm happy to say in Altadena, Pasadena, we're at 75% of the properties are already available to be worked on in phase 2, which is exciting. And we've been working closely with the Army Corps to begin taking extraneous things that they may find. So we're doing that now in both Altadena Golf Course and over at Lario Staging Area. We needed places that were large and flat. They had to be at least 5 acres, and they had to accommodate the truck traffic that we need to bring the waste away from that site and off to the landfill, as Colonel Swenson described. So we want to do that safely, and to do that, we approach each of these places, both the golf course and Lario, with a lot of caution. We put up tents. We line the areas we're working with 3 layers of plastic and add best management practices all around so that no material can get through into the ground or groundwater. And then, like Supervisor Barger mentioned, we're going to sample at the end of the use of all these properties. We also have many real-time air monitoring stations, between 4 and 7 stations at each one of these places to ensure there's no dust or vapor leaving the property at any time. Those are run 24/7, and we send updates every week about what we saw or didn't see, as the case may be. These sites are very well controlled, and if you look at our webpage, you can see a step-by-step process of how they're built. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Our next question is, will the Army Corps or Public Works provide an interactive map similar to the tagging of properties and EPA for phase 2? This way we can have an idea when they might be coming to our neighborhood.
Yeah, I can take that one. So we do have a public viewer that is available, and we are working with, as we speak, we're working with the county to get it linked to the county's website as well. In the interim, it's on the USACE, if you type in USACE Los Angeles district, there's a link. But and there's also a press release that we're sending out today that also has the link in it. It'll allow you, similar to the EPA, it'll allow you to search by your home, your parcel, typing in your address. It'll find, as you type it in, it'll find your address. You can click on it. It'll tell you whether we have your right of entry, whether EPA is looked at your property or not, and give you some basic information about your parcel.
Yeah, and as Colonel mentioned, Public Works is working with the Corps and a joint information center. And one of the goals we have is to link that interactive map to our recovery.lacounty.gov site. So it's easy access, one-stop shop for everybody that's involved in the program. We're working behind the scenes day and night to get that link up and get shared information out to you all. Should have it this week, I imagine.
Thank you, Director Pastrella. Colonel Swenson, how were the phase 2 debris removal hauling routes decided?
Yeah, so we worked with we worked with the county, we worked with Cal Recycle, we surveyed all of the available landfills that were in reasonable driving distance to the impacted areas. And then we looked with our friends at Cal Recycle in the county, we looked at which landfills had what we call airspace, and had volume for us to bring fire ash and debris to, or concrete or recyclables. And we looked to see if they were permitted. We looked at the type of landfill to make sure it was safe for that material. We worked with the landfills to make sure we had safe access to it, and we had our own scales so that we weren't impacting normal municipal trash operations. And at the end of the day, it's also a bit of a shortest path problem, right? We want to get from the impacted parcel, as I said before, from local, county, state, and federal highways as quickly as we can, get to the landfill, and then get back so we can make the next, so we can get the next load. Because the faster we go, not speed-wise, but the more efficiently we get to these locations and back, and the less time we spend sitting in traffic or driving exorbitant distance, the faster we get this debris removed, the faster we go from an uncontained to a contained environment, and the faster the residents, the survivors who are impacted by these fires, and all residents of LA County who are in some ways impacted by the fires, whether directly or indirectly, we give them the opportunity to rebuild their lives here and their communities without us being here.
Thank you, Colonel Swenson. I believe the next question is for Director Pastrella. Director, why does insurance information need to be submitted on the ROE? If our insurance is billed, will this take away from what we could have received to rebuild our home?
Yes, as part of the agreement with the state and the government, federal government, the county entered into agreement that any affected property owner with homeowner insurance would forfeit the portion of their homeowners of insurance that is specifically for debris removal. It's specific line item. This is an area that would not affect your dwelling, your part A of your insurance or other structures, but a specific line item. And if you look at your insurance, you should see there, or you can check with your insurance agent to see if you have this kind of insurance. We're taking any of that insurance you have and putting it towards this effort so that we are not creating a double benefit, if you will. The federal government cannot provide double benefits to the homeowner. So the insurance comes first, and then the federal dollar comes second to pay for this effort. So the county, in our role of collecting those, that portion of your insurance and forwarding it to the federal government for the cleanup.
And Mark, can you talk about the fact that if, for example, we do not remove the pool, so if they want to use the debris portion of their insurance policy to do mitigation above and beyond what we are going to do, they can,
Yes.
And then we will bill what is ever left over.
That's correct, Supervisor. It's only that amount that is left when you're in your insurance is specific to this cleanup that you. So if you, as you said, if you have a pool and that portion can be used for the pool cleanup, but what's left is going to go towards the debris cleanup. And
Or
there-
anything,
our
yeah.
insurance commissioner has addressed this several times, and maybe if we have the opportunity the next meeting to have someone from the insurance commissioner's office, they could be very specific about this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I do believe we have Julia Juarez with the Insurance Commissioner's Office on if she'd like to add.
Thank you very much. Basically, the issue here is just that we have a law that doesn't allow you to double dip on the same on the same issue. So that's basically that's what this is for. But it will be you will be able to use it for ultimately, all the mitigation that is there. So yes, Supervisor Barger, you're right in regards to the pool, being able to remove that with those funds as well.
Thank you. And given the Army Corps will only remove debris within the ash footprint, do we need a public works permit to remove debris outside the ash footprint? This is for both destroyed and not destroyed homes. Director Pastrella?
If you have a destroyed home, the footprint will include any portions of the home that is standing or outside of it. So I'll take this question as meaning those areas outside of the ash footprint that may be in the yard beyond the ash footprint that are ash and debris. Maybe you have some vegetation that was burned or a fence or something that is down on the ground. But for the most part, the Corps is going to pick up that material. If there's excess material, or perhaps you don't qualify for debris removal because you didn't have the structure damaged and you had outbuildings or something very small damaged, there is no permit required from the county to remove those materials. Of course, they need to be taken to the appropriate landfill, and whoever removes it for you needs to be certified to remove it. So you need to look for a demo contractor or a hauling company that has the proper certifications, but we don't require a permit to clean the lawn or clean the yard area up outside that ash footprint.
Thank you, Director Pastrella. Given the challenges faced by properties on septic systems, is the county going to extend sewer service to these homes and use emergency funds to cover the extension costs?
Well, unfortunately, there isn't such an emergency fund. Or maybe you were thinking that would be something reimbursable from the federal government. And it's not my understanding that extension or expansion of our infrastructure is something that would be reimbursable by the federal government. So we do collect standby fees in this area for the Consolidated Sewer Maintenance District that essentially give you the right to connect to sewer. Typically, the cost to connect is borne by the property owner themselves from the property out to building the sewer line on your property and to your home. And then when you connect, you should have already been paying some kind of standby fee where it shouldn't be that expensive for you to connect to us. But each situation is going to be very specific to your situation. And what I'd ask that this person who's asking this question contact our Building and Safety Department, or they can just contact the Department of Public Works directly, and we'll guide you to the Consolidated Sewer Maintenance District that serves this area. So we can best answer your specific property question.
Thank you, Director Pastrella. And I know you briefly touched on this, but just to clarify for folks listening in, how do people dispose of debris in houses that are still standing, whose trash haulers will not take it,
Yes.
but also do not qualify for the Phase 2 debris removal program?
There will be a point where the trash haulers will be able to take that debris. What's going on is we want to be sure that people aren't improperly hauling debris from totally destroyed properties on their own without proper oversight for that. And so I apologize for the delay in that. I know some homeowners, then they want to get cleaned up around their property. You're going to have to bear with us, but be aware they're not allowed to take debris like charred material, like say you had an outhouse and it was destroyed in the fire, and there's maybe drywall and timber and that burn material, that is a fire and ash debris material, and you should be applying for an opt-out permit for that situation. And we do have private permits available at recovery.lacounty.gov for that situation. There's a fine line. We were talking about it earlier, where your yard was burned and some of the maybe the trees and the vegetation have been knocked down, and you're ready to gather it, let it go. That actually should be being accepted at the landfills at this point. But we'll call the local landfills and make sure that they're differentiating between organic waste and fire and debris ash. There is a distinction between the two. And you may have run into us being very conservative here at first, because we're, of course, trying to be careful that we're not placing things in the wrong landfill. So, but again, if you attempt to take even a burnt ember, a burnt, log or something, or there was a stud or a drywall that was on the property partially burned, you're going to get stopped, because you are going to need to have a private disposal permit for that purpose. And again, the details for that and the permits are available at recovery.lacounty.gov.
Director, I just want to chime in for the folks that just had, soot on their property. They're not really in the burn areas. They had soot, they had some ash. It's a small amount. Please look at our guidance, because you can safely dispose of that. You do need to put it into plastic bag, a heavy duty plastic bag, or double the plastic bag. It needs to be tied securely, and you need to place it in your bins with a lid on them. Because the one thing we don't want is that you've cleaned up your ash, but you're now disposing of it in a way that allows it to spread to others. But for those of you who already cleaned up, and it was, really a modest amount of ash and soot, please go ahead. You can continue to follow the sensible directions around getting rid of that debris. I think the bigger question comes if you've had burn on your property.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ferrer. That's a good clarification.
Thank you. And Dr. Ferrer, what is the current guidance on when it will be safe to return home if our house is near destroyed homes? Should we wait to clean our house until after phase 1 and phase 2 have been completed?
This is an excellent question, and I want to thank the residents, because each of you has a particular situation. There are some of you who live pretty close to burnt areas, and you really want to get back home, and you've either yourself or you've hired someone to help you do a cleanup. And I want to note that, there are ways that you can go ahead and do a significant cleanup that would allow you to go ahead and reoccupy. There are lots of other people, though, however, who are either adjacent to burn areas, or their house is one of the homes that's still standing in a burn area. Until phase 1 and phase 2 are completed, that exposure to both hazardous materials for phase 1 cleanup and for fire debris for phase 2 cleanup can in fact cause you to be exposed to hazardous materials, including ash and soot. And for that exposure, that can be a risk. To minimize your risks, if you can wait until phase 1 and phase 2 are completed, that would afford you the most protections. We've also worked with the insurance commission so that people are not facing the pressure from their insurance plan to go ahead and reoccupy in an area where clearly you're surrounded by fire debris that can cause you to suffer from health symptoms and even impact your long-term health.
Thank you, Dr. Ferrer.
Can I interrupt for a minute and ask Colonel Swenson, can you clarify how Altadena golf course is going to be used for staging for the phase 2?
Oh, yes, Supervisor. Thanks for that question. So we have extensive requirements we have requirements to help stage both scrap metal and crushed concrete or concrete after we take the slabs out. And so our primary purpose for the golf course will be to stage those materials, allow us to break it down into smaller loads. We're able to crush the metal and band it, and then crush the concrete and put it into larger trucks and haul it to appropriate, longer term locations where it can re-enter the supply chain. So that is the purpose of it, and we will sort of hand that off. We will hand that take that from the EPA when their portion of the operation has ended.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what is the recovery plan and timeline for the Altadena water companies and the restoration of potable water deliveries? Is the county, state, or federal government doing anything to clean their lines and restore clean water service as quickly as possible?
Is there anyone on the line from the water companies by any chance? Okay, I will answer from the county engineer's perspective. Currently, as the county building official, I've been seeking information from your water districts. They're mutual water agencies, 3 of them that serve Altadena area, and a irrigation district that's not what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about the mutual water companies, Rubio, Lincoln, and Las Flores. We've had formal discussions with all 3 mutual water districts and have come to learn that they have significant damage to their systems. Currently they are assessing those systems, and they are governed by the state of California. State Water Board has been notified, and the State Water Board is working with all 3 agencies to understand what it will take to get them back up and running to a place where they have not only drinking water supply, but fire suppression water. This is critical to myself and to County Supervisor Kathryn Barger, because we know that this water is essential for the reoccupancy of your homes. And so we have been very active in reaching out, helping them, understanding their situation, and then working directly with the state of California to see what the state can do to aid these 3 water agencies in what looks like a very large repair program for all 3 agencies.
And I see Cal OES has their hand.
Thank you, Supervisor. Just wanted to echo the Director Pistrella's comments. My name's Eli Owen. I'm the Deputy State Coordinating Officer here in the Joint Field Office at Pasadena. We have multiple task forces set up to conduct this recovery. It's a whole of government recovery. One of them is our debris task force, as well as our infrastructure task force. I have teams that have engaged the water districts and are working with them to understand the damages and also to support their recovery. I just wanted to foot stomp that what the director was saying. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Pastrella, could you please explain the process for verifying ROE forms?
Sure.
We have a question here that says, I submitted mine weeks ago, and so did all of my neighbors, but the Army Corps has only received a few hundred.
Yeah, so this process that you've entered in, thank you for making your submittal and making it early and with such robust effort. The Altadena area is definitely outpacing the Palisades area, but not by much. So keep going. The ROE requires that is an agreement between the homeowner and the county and the Corps of Engineers to authorize the Corps of Engineers to enter your property. And of course, we're protecting your property rights by asking your permission to enter. And as such, we are required to confirm that you are the actual owner and have the authority to give that permission to the Corps of Engineers to enter. And so we have title experts that are actually 100 of them total, that are looking at every one of the ROEs and confirming that ownership, confirming also that what you're opting in for and opting out of, specifically whether or not you're interested in your foundation removal or not. And then that process can take some time depending upon the ownership. There are some difficult ownership issues. Some of them are very easy and they go very rapidly. We're able to turn them over. We've been able to stand this system up, and we've done this system 4 or 5 different times in the county, working with the state of California to do debris removal. So my staff is expert at it, but it's not above, but in this instance, we do have an incredible number of them to confirm. So we brought in consultants. We brought in Tetra Tech to help us, and they are a versed consultant that has the technology to do this quickly. And we've been able to ramp up the ROE approvals. I don't know where we stand right at the moment. Maybe someone who's listening, one of my staff knows, they can tell us. But I know that we went from some like maybe 60 at the beginning of the weekend, and we're at 300 or 400 and maybe 600 over this weekend. Maybe Colonel Swenson knows the number Do you know that, Colonel Swenson, the number right now, by any chance?
Yeah, let me, so right now, we've received from the county 411 as of
411. Yeah.
as of this afternoon.
Yeah, so 411. So what I expect to have happen is that gets exponentially growing over this next week as we put into our consultant has gotten geared up and ready to go and is full blast now. So you should see a very rapid fire over the next week, infusion of ROEs coming to the Corps. And our goal is to give them more than they can handle. So we're in a little competition with the Corps to push them, and you will see an exponential increase in ROEs over this next week. And we will stay ahead of the Corps so that they aren't waiting for ROEs as the months come. But again, unprecedented speed to action here. Again, with a very delicate process. You know, it's a long form that we ask you to fill out. All the information has to be confirmed. And then I sign off on all these ROEs, confirming to the Corps that they have a right to enter, they're on the right property, and this person wants the benefit of the ROE program. That is what I'm doing when I'm doing the ROEs.
Hey, Mark, can I follow up on that? When an applicant submits their ROE form, they get a response back telling them that they have to verify property ownership and respond within 48 hours.
Right.
It's stressing some people out because they're out of their home and it may take them longer to gather information. Why is that 48 hours on there if they've got till March 31st?
Yeah, we're looking, Supervisor, I think that language does sound stressful. It stresses me hearing it. I think we're trying to be rapid and accelerated in that and not let it go too long. But let me look at why we're asking that for that speed. I don't think it's a legal issue. I think it's a matter of us wanting to, as we get it, we want to process it right as we get it. So it gets queued up and we're waiting for that information so we don't set it aside. We keep going on that ROE. So maybe just a part of the process.
It won't be, if they don't get it back in 48 hours, it doesn't mean that the ROE has to be resubmitted.
No, not at all.
Okay.
We'll call, in fact, we will call with questions. If we find something that that is causing us difficulty to approve the ROE, we will call that or email that person directly and ask for more information so that we can process it.
Thank you. Director Pastrella, our private road is being damaged by heavy equipment. Will it be repaved after the cleanup is complete?
Is this like a driveway, I'm assuming, or maybe a private driveway to the property? In fact, one of the things that we're actually having you sign off on is that damage may happen and the Corps will not be replacing a driveway, repaving a driveway on private property. That is the answer to that question.
Thank you, Director Pastrella. And given the shortage of civil engineers, could LA County cover the cost of property surveys or streamline the process using technology?
Absolutely. We two things there. First of all, I've been proposing and talking to industry about the potential for private property surveys to be completed by industry folks that want to do pro bono work. So I am talking to the county surveyors around about that. It's not done yet. I'm actually work with Supervisor's office looking for for charity folks that are giving charity work, losing the word today, or giving to this and maybe using some of that money for that. There are a lot of industry people who want to do this kind of work, and that's the other thing I've been thinking about doing is setting up like a core of engineers and also private engineers and also surveyors who may be willing to do this work for you pro bono. So all that came out of, by the way, the workshop we had last week. We had so many great people come in and have great ideas, and this is one of the ideas that was arisen. So be aware I'm working on such a thing right now with industry to see if we can't, not only on the surveys, but other services that might be provided that normally cost, for instance, soils reports being required as part of the foundation system. I am actually touching base with the American Society of Civil Engineers and with the surveying community about providing, again, pro bono, or actually working with folks that want to give to the cause to pay for that work to be done across Altadena so we could spare you the cost. So more to come on that front, and a lot of other good ideas that came out of our workshops last week.
Thank you, Director Pastrella. And then we also have Director Amy Bodek with the Department of Regional Planning who is on. And I believe this question is for you, Director Bodek. What steps are being taken to streamline the county building permit process to enable rebuilding to begin within 6 months? How is permitting handling requirements that were not in place when the home was originally built, but are in place now, such as energy code restrictions, structural observation programs, etc.?
All right, thank you very much. Excuse me. I appreciate being here, and I'm going to ask Mark Pastrella to help me with the second part of the question. But as you all probably know, planning works very closely with Public Works, Public Health, and the Fire Department in permitting activities throughout the county. And we are setting up one-stop permitting shops for both fires. But in Altadena last week, we initiated a one-stop permit center within the FEMA Disaster Recovery Center, and that went live last Sunday, actually last Monday, excuse me. With the help of Director Pastrella, we are actually identifying a more permanent location to move that one-stop permitting center and expect to be out of our temporary facilities and into a more permanent facility next month. So you can actually come to the DRC, the Disaster Recovery Center in Altadena today, and meet in one location at one table, all four of the permitting departments. And we will handle your temporary permit for a temporary housing. We will also accept rebuild applications for any kind of rebuild that you're interested in doing. Just to give you some numbers, to date, we have accepted 2 applications for temporary housing and are in the process of getting those approved by all 4 permit departments. And then we've also received 16 applications for rebuilding in Altadena. 5 of those applications are for what we call like-for-like rebuilds, and the remaining applications are for new rebuilds. We have instituted a process through an existing ordinance where a homeowner can construct the same amount of square footage plus up to a 10% increase on their property. And that's called a like-for-like rebuild. It's essentially the same square footage and essentially in the same location. You might need to move it a foot or 2 to accommodate, some interesting attribute of your property, and that is considered to be in substantially the same location. But if you had a 1,500 square foot home and you wanted to construct a 1,500 square foot home in essentially the same location, we consider that like for like. It does not mean that you rebuild your home to its original code, maybe from the 1940s. And so for that part, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Pastrella to see if he could answer that portion of the question that specifically relates to the code requirements for building.
Sure. Thank you, Director Bodek. And that's correct. Amy and I are working very closely with our staff and fire and health officials to streamline the permitting process. We've agreed that one permit will come out, we'll collect one set of fees, and one permit will come out. Sounds like a no-brainer, but we've gone and done that. That's one piece. And then in terms of standards, we're going to be applying Chapter 7A standards, which are the updated standards for structures located in high fire hazard zones. These standards shouldn't cost you that much more to build, although if you haven't built a home in a long time, you may get sticker shock by just the construction cost around homes these days. What we're trying to do is not make our standards prohibitive and make them more cost effective by as you mentioned, streamlining the inspection process, having all-in-one inspections, having 2-week turnarounds on our plan check. Right now we're at 4 weeks, and we have an aspirational goal that supervisors set for us to have some permits be able to be issued within 1 month. That would be a tremendous thing, and it is something that Amy and I are working on right now to look at what we could do to develop a building standard that could meet that. If you're going to build a custom home, with all the bells and whistles, and you are still going to have an expedited process because we're going to dedicate specific staff. These are not the staff that currently plan check throughout the county, but actually specific staff that will be brought, at least for building and safety, to work within the building and safety office in Altadena, whose sole job will be to get these properties back up and running and built to today's standards. That does include fireproofing and hardening of the structures. And that's just the standard that we have today. Lots of great technology that's come that actually doesn't come at an increased cost, but rather just the materials that we're using these days are much more fire resistant than they were in the past. And by the way, also, they're a lot more healthy because we've eliminated asbestos from our materials and a lot of other materials that really have, through the years we've learned, are not effective building materials. So come in and meet with us. If you're a professional engineer, architect, designer, or just a homeowner who wants to know more about what we're requiring, what the cost would be, we're happy to sit down with you at our one-stop center, have you sit down with the office manager and go through the code and what is required these days. Because I know many people are trying to estimate what the cost is going to be to do the work. I really do recommend you take some time and spend some time with us as a part of your due diligence to put that in your timeline, and so that you'll have certainty about how long it will take to get your building permits out. But rest assured, Supervisor Barger has set down the gauntlet for us. We're excited about the challenge. We're all in. The county's all in. We made our big commitment last week to make this as easy and cost effective as possible for the community of Altadena as you rebuild.
Thank you, Mr. Pastrella. So as he said, his department is doing surge staffing, which would allow for dedicated resources specifically to survivors of this fire. Planning is doing the same. We know that we will have to separate and do surge staffing so that there is a business as usual, which is going to be, conducting business for the rest of the county. But then there are dedicated staff specifically to handle all rebuilding from the fire survivors. Additionally, we are looking and working very closely with Public Works on potentially providing pre-approved plans in various square footages and various architectural styles. And we're actually working with a group of architects from Altadena who are leading this charge and are asking for our assistance in how to get those permitted and be made available to anyone and everyone who's interested in doing that. So that is another effort that we are trying to do to streamline the permitting process and also just to streamline opportunities for everyone to rebuild as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bodek. Can you please explain the process of placing a trailer or a temporary mobile home on the property during a rebuild? Are there permits for electricity, water, sewage? If so, will any of the permits be waived?
Okay, that's a great question. And fortunately, we do have a single application for all 4 permits that are going to be required for something of this nature. So yes, you can, an applicant can, or a survivor can bring in a temporary unit and place it on their property while they are rebuilding. Now, there certainly may be some space restrictions on your parcel, so this may not be an option for everyone. But if you already own an RV, or you're going to rent an RV, or you have access to an RV, and you want to put that RV on your parcel, there is a simple 2-page application that is on the recovery.lacounty.gov webpage. It's also on our webpage and Public Works' webpage. We also have handouts of this application at our Disaster Recovery Center. So you can actually go and get and apply for your permit either in person or online. Again, it's a single consolidated application. And we have consolidated all of our 4 fees that may be associated with a temporary housing. So you get one invoice and you make one payment to the County of Los Angeles to get that temporary application. There are some restrictions, and then there's also some guidance. One of the guidance items is, of course, if you are returning to an area that has not been cleaned of debris, there are absolutely health risks to that. You cannot impede the work that is being done by the Army Corps of Engineers. And your site must be cleaned at a minimum through phase 1. So phase 1, hazardous materials must be removed. You are not to place that temporary trailer in an area that still has debris on it. So I do know that there are homes in Altadena or locations in Altadena where the front yard setback maybe 30 feet deep and it's untouched. There's no debris whatsoever on it. Theoretically, you might be able to place your RV there. But again, you should not be in any conflict with the ability of the Army Corps to come in and do that debris removal. You do need 3 approvals. One is you need potable water, you need an electrical connection, and you need a wastewater disposal system. There are ways to resolve all 3 of those items. And really, I do suggest, as Director Pastrella said, come in and talk to us about the best way to handle your specific situation. The guidance I might provide you today may not work for your site. So we do need to understand your parcel a little bit better before we can tell you directly what's going to work best for you. But there's absolutely an opportunity for you to utilize a temporary facility on your parcel to live in while you are constructing your home. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bodek. Are there restrictions in place to prevent developers from buying lots in Altadena and converting them into condos, townhouses, and apartment complexes?
There are no restrictions in place that restrict who can purchase property. And so that is an individual choice that an individual homeowner or parcel owner has to make. There are restrictions, however, in zoning code. So Altadena is predominantly still a single family neighborhood, and that single family zoning continues to apply. There is an ability for a single parcel to be subdivided if it's large enough into 2 parcels under state law. And so that can occur, but that doesn't mean that it can have a condo project on it. That means that a parcel may be subdivided and then instead of constructing 1 home, it's actually going to allow for the construction of 2 homes that are still ownership homes. I don't see the ability under our existing zoning for someone to do that without having to go through a much more public, laborious subdivision process that's going to include a lot of time, energy, and public outreach.
Thank you for that, Director Bodek. And we have time for one more question. And this question is for the Department of Insurance. Julia, what is the current status of the insurance commissioner's order regarding preventing insurance companies from forcing residents back into their homes before phase 2 completion?
Thank you for your question. On Friday, Commissioner Lara issued an order to insurance companies. I want to make sure that I read you the exact order, which is basically making the notice. The notice was for all residential property insurance companies, urging them to continue providing additional living expense coverage for wildfire survivors whose homes are uninhabitable. Excuse my error there, uninhabitable, due to the devastating Palisades, Eaton, and other wildfires in Southern California. So additional living expense benefits we know are crucial for supporting these individuals while their homes remain unsafe and unlivable. And so as the Department of Public Health issued a stronger public health policy advisory to residents near the burn areas. That did highlight the dangers of the fire debris for individuals living within 250 yards of a burned structure. And so the advisory follows the order issued by the public health officer on January 15th. So I just want to make sure that residents know that if they are having trouble with their insurance company on this particular issue or any issue, they can certainly call the Department of Insurance. We are at 1-800-927-4357, or you can reach us online at insurance.ca.gov, and you can talk to someone on chat or on the phone. But we also, Commissioner Lara is also hosting a workshop on March 8th at the Skirball Cultural Center, and then another workshop on March 15th at Muir High School. And we will be in Pasadena, excuse me. And so we will be there where people can meet with our insurance experts one-on-one, and they can review their policies and their claims with them. And if they need to also meet with their insurance company, we will have the list of insurance companies there as well, who have the most amount of people of policies in the area. So they will be able to meet directly with their insurance companies there and figure out any issues that they may have. So we urge you to please join us and make an appointment with the department so that you can have those one-on-one interviews if you would like to do it in person as well.
Thank you, Julia. Are the appointments available online? Is there more information on the DOI website?
Yes. So the appointments, you basically can just call the phone number at 1-800-927-4357, and you can make your appointment there. We have people who will be there answering the phones every day from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so you will be able to talk with them there. On the weekends, they are available from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And so you are able to make your appointments there. You can also reach us, like I said, by our website at insurance.ca.gov. I have also posted the flyer on the chat, so you're welcome to use that as well, so that or print that if you need to get that information.
Thank you, Julia. And that's all the time that we have for questions today. Supervisor Barger, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, and thank you all for being on this. We're going to have another meeting, but in between, or another session next Monday. But in between, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to my office. You can email Kathryn at lacbos.org or bos.lacounty.org. It's Kathryn at bos.lacounty.gov. I'm sorry. So it's Kathryn at bos.lacounty.gov. If you have any questions, and we'll make sure we follow up with you. But I want to thank everybody, Cal OES, Army Corps of Engineers, EPA, and of course the county staff for everything you're doing to help us keep moving this forward.
Thank you, Supervisor Barger, and thank you all for joining us today. For more information, please visit recovery.lacounty.gov/Altadena or visit your local disaster recovery center.